My daughter-in-law slapped me across the face, and that was it. That single moment, sharp, shocking, final, split my life clean down the middle. Everything before that slap had been a long, painful attempt at patience. Everything after was clarity. I had endured so much leading up to that moment, more than I ever admitted even to myself. When Ella got pregnant, I had foolishly hoped it would bring us closer. A new life has a way of uniting people, doesn't it? At least that's what I told myself. I imagined helping with doctor visits, making soothing teas, folding tiny onesies, watching her glow and grow into motherhood. Instead, what arrived was tension, sudden, dense, suffocating tension. Her temper became like a ticking bomb. At first, the fuse was long. Irritation flickered behind narrowed eyes, in the sighs she gave when I offered help, in the way she avoided my gaze during dinners. Then came sarcasm. Snide comments about old-fashioned parenting, or how some people should really stop giving advice no one asked for. I let them slide. I smiled and offered to wash dishes. I reminded myself, she's hormonal, she's tired, she's scared. She doesn't mean it. But sarcasm turned into sharp insults, and soon those became full-blown outbursts, yelling over towels not folded right, screaming because the tea was too hot, the pillow too firm, the soap the wrong brand. I kept repeating the same line in my head like a chant. She's pregnant, she doesn't mean it, just bear with it, be the bigger person. I was her mother-in-law. I believed it was my duty to stay calm, to support her. Never, not once, did I imagine she'd raise her hand to me, and certainly not over dinner. It started with a craving. She said she wanted something spicy, her eyes lighting up as she scrolled through pictures on her phone. Red pepper roasted sea bass, she said, from that one bistro by the river. Ugh, I miss that place. Can you try making it? I took it seriously. I wanted to get it right. I wanted to please her. So I wrapped my scarf around my neck and walked to the bus stop, waiting in the chill of early spring air. 7 stops across town, I searched 3 different markets to find the freshest fish. I stood in line behind noisy teenagers, dodged impatient shoppers, even slipped on a wet patch by the seafood counter. I winced as my knee buckled, but I didn't give up. I brought the fish home like it was a prized offering. I spent 2 hours in the kitchen, cleaning, seasoning, marinating. I looked up recipes, I tested spice blends. I plated it carefully, garnished it with cilantro, sliced lemon wedges just like the photos she showed me. I even set the table. Not fancy, just intentional. Forks aligned, napkin folded, candle lit. When I called her to eat, she sauntered into the room, eyes glued to her phone, thumbs moving quickly across the screen. She sat with a loud sigh and an expression like she had already decided to be disappointed. She didn't look at the meal, just took a bite. 1 bite. She wrinkled her nose like she had just tasted poison and dropped the fork with a metallic clatter. Then she scoffed, loud and sharp, and pushed the plate away. "Why is this so salty?" she snapped. "Didn't I tell you I wanted something mild? God, do you even listen?" I stood still for a moment. "That's how the dish is made," I said gently, trying to keep my voice steady. "You were the one who asked for it, remember?" She shot to her feet. Her voice grew shrill, cutting through the air like a blade. "How many times do I have to repeat myself for you to get it? Are your ears just for decoration? You're so damn useless. I can't believe I have to live like this." That wasn't the first time she'd talked to me like I was trash under her shoe, but it was the first time something inside me cracked all the way through. I took off my apron slowly, my fingers trembling, but my voice cold and even. "I'm too old to be at your beck and call, Ella. If you want something done your way, then do it yourself." I turned to walk out. I'd had enough. My pride had been bruised 1,000 times already, but I wasn't going to let her slice through it again. But then, before I could reach the doorway, she stormed up behind me and she slapped me hard. Her hand struck my cheek like a stone against glass, sharp, loud, final. Her palm didn't just sting, it burned. I staggered sideways, my ear ringing, eyes wide. She used to be a fitness coach. Her body was still strong, toned. 1 month into her pregnancy hadn't changed her strength. I tried to catch myself against the table, but my hand slipped on the smooth edge. I lost balance. My back hit the corner and I collapsed onto the cold tile floor. The impact sent a sharp jolt through my spine, and for a moment I couldn't breathe. I lay there gasping, blinking up at the ceiling, the edges of my vision swimming. Ella stood frozen. Her face drained of color and a look of horror passed over it, brief, flickering. Then she turned sharply toward the couch. "Babe," her voice trembled. "Babe, Luke dropped his game controller and ran over, but not to me. He ran to her. He pulled her into his arms. "It's okay, baby. I've got you. I won't let anything hurt you." He didn't even glance down at me. Didn't ask if I was okay. Didn't check if I could stand. I was still sprawled on the floor, breathing in shallow gasps. Then the front door opened. Jacob walked in. My husband. Since I had moved in to help take care of Ella through the pregnancy, he'd been tagging along, spending his days drinking with old friends and his evenings slumped on our couch. He saw me lying on the floor, and he scowled. No concern, no confusion, no alarm, just a scowl. "What the hell are you doing now?" he asked, irritation thick in his voice, like I had once again inconvenienced his evening. Luke and Ella visibly relaxed when the door opened. Their eyes darted toward the entry like soldiers catching sight of backup. Jacob stepped inside, his heavy boots dragging mud across the floor. He stopped just far enough to scan the room, saw me still sitting dazed on the tile, and frowned, not with worry but with irritation, as if I'd spilled something on his shirt. Luke took the opportunity. He stepped forward, voice hurried. "Dad," he started. "Just now, Mom." But Jacob held up a hand, already shaking his head. "Stella, give it a rest, will you? You tripped and fell, so now what? You want the whole house to bow down to you?" My mouth parted. No sound came. My vision swam, not from the pain, though my back throbbed and my cheek pulsed where her hand had struck me, but from disbelief, disgust. I raised my arm, hand trembling as I pointed toward Ella. "She hit me," I said, voice raw. "She hit me." The silence that followed was worse than shouting. It was filled with the thudding absence of care. Luke tensed, shifting his weight awkwardly, but still stayed planted beside her. "Mom, don't blow it out of proportion. She's pregnant. Hormones, she just lost it for a second." Jacob scoffed and cut in before I could say a word. "She's carrying our grandson. You're supposed to be here to help, not stir up drama." Then he turned toward Ella, and his tone morphed into something light and coaxing, like he was speaking to a child holding a tantrum in. "Ella, sweetheart, just be careful next time, okay? Don't use your hands. What if you hurt yourself or the baby?" Ella didn't say a word. She just pressed her lips together, but the corner of her mouth curled ever so slightly. Smug. She knew she was winning. She looked at me like a queen secure in her court. I pulled myself up from the floor, bracing on the icy tiles, every joint screaming. I felt colder than the ground beneath me, colder than any winter I'd ever known. 30 years of marriage. 2 decades raising a son, and this was where it led. In this house, I was worth less than the dog they forgot to feed last week. I was a walking appliance that cooked, cleaned, bent over backwards, an unpaid servant who had outlived her usefulness. Luke didn't even pretend to check on me. He wrapped his arm around Ella like she was the one who needed comfort. "See? I told you she's fine," he said, half laughing. "Just being dramatic." Ella rolled her eyes and leaned into him, resting her hand on her belly like a performance. Jacob slapped the edge of the table. "Stella, if dinner's ready, bring it out." "We're starving!" "Dinner." The word rang in my skull like a bell from another world. My hands clenched before I even realized what I was doing. I walked to the edge of the table, looked down at the red pepper sea bass, the same one I'd gone across town to buy, the same dish she had requested, and without a word, I flipped the whole table with one motion. Plates shattered on impact. Glass cracked, food splattered across the tile like a crime scene. Red sauce stained the grout. It was silent for a full beat. They all just stared, mouths open. Then I pulled out my phone. My voice was sharp, emotionless. "I've already called the police." Now the panic started. Jacob roared, stomping forward. "Have you lost your damn mind? You ruined dinner and now you're calling the cops? What the hell will the neighbors think?" Luke's voice cracked. "Mom, come on." "She didn't mean it. It was just one slip. You don't have to do this. Don't put her in jail over a mistake." Ella had gone ghost white. Her lips quivered. I didn't mean to," she whispered. Jacob was the loudest. "Cancel the call. Say you misdialed. Tell them it was nothing." Now they were yelling over each other. Their voices merged into an unbearable storm of guilt, denial, demands. It was like bees swarming inside my skull. I sat on the couch and cradled my head. I couldn't hear anything anymore. Everything faded. And that's where I was when the officers arrived. The rest was a blur, sirens, questions, their faces distorting, then blackness. When I opened my eyes again, fluorescent lights buzzed above me. I was in a hospital bed, the IV tube tugging gently at my arm. Luke was there the moment I stirred. He immediately grabbed Ella by the elbow and pulled her closer to the bed. Mom, Ella's really sorry. She knows she messed up. She's pregnant, for God's sake. Can't you just forgive her? Behind them stood Jacob, arms crossed, face tight with tension. His voice was low but commanding. Did you really have to make such a big deal out of this? The police, Stella? Really? It's embarrassing. When they get here, you'll tell them you fell. That's the end of it. Ella stood in place, silent, her mascara slightly smeared, her hands wringing in front of her. I turned my head away. I closed my eyes. Jacob's voice rose again, sharp and cutting. Stella, did you hear me? He still thought I was that same woman, the quiet one, the obedient one, the one who took whatever was given and said thank you. But that slap had cracked something, and through the fracture I could finally see the full picture. What kind of life had I been living? 65 years old and still treated like a live-in servant, still making dinners while my bones ached, still folding towels while being spoken to like an inconvenience. I thought that once Luke married, I could finally breathe, finally rest. But instead, I had stepped into a new layer of servitude, this time to a woman who saw me as nothing more than staff. And these men, the same men I cooked for, cleaned for, sacrificed for, they stood by the woman who assaulted me, comforted her while I lay crumpled on the ground. So who was I humiliating myself for? What legacy was I preserving? My silence had bought me nothing but more silence in return. Inside me, something began to burn, not with anger, but with resolve. I would no longer be their maid, no longer be the loyal wife to a man who'd never been loyal to me. I was done. 65 or not, I was still alive. And while I was breathing, I could still choose. From this moment on, I would love myself with the same fire I once gave to them. That unconditional care, I was reclaiming it, for me. Jacob muttered near the window, pacing. When the cops show up, you better be smart about it, or you'll see what happens. There it was. The old threat, dressed as advice. Even now, hospital bed, bruised back, concussion, his concern wasn't for my health. It was for his image, his control. He still thought I wouldn't dare, but I did. Hours later, when the officers returned, they asked everyone else to leave the room. Jacob lingered. He gave me a look sharp enough to slice paper, rage and warning twisted into one. Don't you dare, that look said. But I did. I told the officers everything. No dramatics, no pleading, just facts, clear, detailed, unflinching. And then I handed them the flash drive, surveillance footage from the corner of the living room, installed months ago after I started feeling unsafe, just in case. That just in case had saved me. They took the drive, took the doctor's report, blunt force trauma, minor concussion, contusions. They said they'd be taking Ella in for questioning. Later that night, Jacob and Luke returned. They looked like cornered dogs, tense, defensive, bristling with forced calm. Jacob held a paper in his hand. Statement of forgiveness, he said, as if it were a contract with God. He didn't ease into anything, just shoved it at me like an invoice. What the hell is wrong with you, Stella? He barked. You dragged this whole nothing situation to the police. Now the whole damn neighborhood knows what a disgrace this family is. He looked at me like I had broken something sacred. But all I felt was relief. Because I had. And it needed breaking. Luke tugged discreetly at his father's sleeve, shooting him a warning glance. Jacob grumbled, but backed off. Luke softened his voice, trying to sound reasonable. Mom, I'm not saying Ella was right what she did. Yeah, I was wrong, but she's pregnant. Can't you let it go just this once? He slid the paper across the table toward me. If you sign this, the police will drop it, no charges. And if you don't, he hesitated, Ella might get detained. She's carrying your grandchild, Mom. You really want that kind of trouble? It could affect the baby's future? I actually laughed. Bitterness stuck in my throat. This was my son? This sniveling, pathetic man? Was this what I had raised? After all that's happened, he still wanted me to cover for Ella, still thought I should swallow my pain to protect a child I hadn't even met. I said nothing, just stared at him, cold as stone. He fumbled. Mom, if she ends up with a record, what happens to the baby? You're going to blow up this family over one mistake. She didn't think about the baby when she hit me, didn't hesitate to slap me in the face. She didn't worry about anyone's future then. So why the hell was I being asked to protect her now? Who is protecting me? My bruises, my face, my heart? Without a word, I slid the paper back across the table. I'm not signing it. Don't ask again. Luke still wasn't ready to give up. If you just sign it, I promise Ella will apologize properly. I scoffed. Apologize? What? You said you'd carry the weight of the world for her, so what happened? Now you're pushing her in front of me, hoping I'll clean it up. His mouth opened, but nothing came out. He rubbed the back of his neck, eyes darting. I didn't want her getting too stressed. It's not good for the baby. He was worried about her, worried about the person who slapped me. I looked at him and didn't recognize the man in front of me. This wasn't my son. This wasn't the boy who once held my hand and said, Mom, you're my whole world. Words failed me. My chest tightened, my vision blurred with tears. I let them fall. I didn't wipe them, didn't hide them. Jacob growled when he saw me cry. Oh, for God's sake, what are you crying about now? It was a slap. People have survived worse. I'm telling you, if you don't sign that paper, you can get the hell out. Get out? I repeated, my voice cold and flat. And then I laughed. Fine, I'll leave, but I want you both to remember this. I walk out clean with no shame clinging to my back. I wipe the tears from my face, slow and deliberate, like brushing away dust from something sacred. Then I lifted my chin and locked eyes with Jacob. There was no tremor in my hands, no shake in my breath. My voice came out low, steady, carved from granite. Jacob Monroe, I said, I want a divorce. He froze in place. For a second, he looked like a malfunctioning machine, eyebrows lifted, mouth slightly open, unsure if he heard me correctly. Then, unbelievably, he laughed. Not kindly. It was sharp, cynical, loud enough to fill the room with the stink of mockery. What did you just say? He barked. Divorce? At your age? He took a step forward, gesturing toward me with his hand like I was some deluded patient refusing medicine. Who the hell would want you? I shot back instantly, my voice like the crack of a whip. Don't worry about me. I'll be just fine without a man. He sneered. You'll regret it. The minute I'm single, I could find someone younger, hotter, and 10 times more agreeable in a heartbeat. I opened my mouth, ready to deliver the next blow, but Luke cut in before I could. His tone was impatient, annoyed, like we were ruining his plans with our messy humanity. Would you two stop already? He snapped. Mom, just sign the damn paper. If Ella really gets locked up, we could lose the baby. She might even divorce me over this. Is that what you want? To watch your whole family fall apart? That was the moment something inside me snapped, quietly, permanently. I snatched the statement of forgiveness he was shoving toward me and tore it to pieces. Clean, angry rips that echoed like thunder. I let the fragments flutter to the ground like dead butterflies. This family, I said coldly, already is broken. I turned to Jacob again. I'm done. I want a divorce. His face contorted into something feral. Then go to hell, he screamed, spittle flying, and he slammed the door behind him with such force the walls trembled. Luke stared down at the shredded paper on the floor, face flushed, fists clenched. He pointed a shaking finger at me like I was some heretic standing in his church. You're heartless, he shouted. Fine, don't expect me to call you Mom ever again. I laughed, loud and free and full of something I hadn't felt in years. Relief. Perfect, I said, arms open, smiling now. Starting today, I have no husband, no son, and it feels damn good. Luke stormed out too, slamming the door behind him. The sound echoed through the house, but then nothing. Silence. Blessed, holy, golden silence. I leaned back against the hospital bed and felt my chest rise and fall. My heart was cracked, sure, like glass that had survived an earthquake. But it was still beating. And for the first time, it belonged entirely to me. I closed my eyes and slept. Really slept. The kind of sleep that doesn't come from exhaustion, but from liberation. For the next week in the hospital, not a call, not a message, not a visit, nothing. It was as if Jacob and Luke had erased me from their lives in one clean swipe. But I wasn't grieving. Their absence didn't feel like a wound. It felt like oxygen. The police updated me later. Ella had been sentenced to 15 days in detention. She was also legally required to cover all my medical expenses during that time. Justice, not vengeance. The only person who never left my side was Cooper Reed, my nephew, my sister's boy. Cooper had always been different. Quieter. More aware of the pain others carried. His mother, my sister Carol, died when he was just 16. Cancer, quick, cruel. His father remarried within a year to a woman who viewed Cooper as competition, not kin. He learned young how to disappear in plain sight. Boarded at school, kept his head down. Navigated weekends with his stepmother like walking through a minefield. But he never complained. Not once. I was the one who saw through the silence. I was the one who made sure he had clean clothes, lunch money, books. I gave quietly so he could receive without shame. That small, invisible support, it helped him reach one of the best universities in the state. While his father cried poor and fed his new family steak, I scraped together money so Cooper could eat rice without fear of running out before Sunday. After graduation, he co-founded a small digital tech company in New Jersey. It wasn't flashy, but it was solid. He made enough to live well. More importantly, he never forgot. Birthdays, Mother's Day, even random Tuesdays. He called, he visited, he showed up. And during that week in the hospital, he was there, every day. He brought meals, flowers, clean socks, books, conversations, laughter, a sense of safety. Looking into his kind, serious eyes was the only thing that kept my heart from going entirely cold. When I was discharged, I told him I was heading home, to finalize the divorce. He tried to be gentle about it on the drive back. Aunt Stella, maybe just try to talk things through peacefully. You don't have to rush into it. But he saw it in my eyes. There was no going back. So he didn't argue. He just said, "Then I'm coming with you." We walked through the front door, and a ceramic mug came flying straight at my face. Cooper yanked me back just in time. The mug shattered against the doorframe, ceramic shards exploding like shrapnel. Jacob's voice bellowed from the kitchen. "What the hell are you doing back? Why didn't you just die in that hospital?" Cooper stepped in front of me like a wall. "Uncle Jacob," he said, firm but calm. "She just got out. Can't you speak like a human being?" Only then did Jacob realize I wasn't alone. His eyes narrowed. The venom in his voice sharpened. "Brought back up, huh? You think some muscles are going to scare me, Stella?" He sneered. "I'll never forgive you." I stepped forward, brushed the dust from my shoulder. "I don't need your forgiveness. I'm here to end this marriage officially." He laughed again. "Divorce? Are you serious? You think you've got options at your age? Where the hell do you think you're going to go?" I didn't waste breath replying. I walked around him and began packing. He followed me like a bitter ghost, shadowing my every move. "You think I'll come crawling back? Dream on," he shouted. I folded a blouse, placed it neatly in the suitcase. "Relax. I wouldn't take you back if you were the last man alive." I pulled out a folder. Inside was the draft of the divorce agreement. I handed it to him. "This is preliminary. We've got the house and $100,000 in savings. Pick one." The house was in a prime neighborhood. His parents had left it to us. I knew what he'd choose. Jacob had always loved that house more than he'd ever loved me. He snorted. "Obviously, I'm taking the house. I'm not moving out. You can leave. I'll be just fine without you." I zipped the suitcase and stood. "Great," he said. "Sign the papers and be done with it." "I will." He stomped off to grab a pen. That's when Luke walked through the front door. He carried tension like a second skin. The moment he saw me packing, his face twisted. "So this is it? You got what you wanted? Ella's in jail. You won. Happy now?" He threw his hands up. "Was it worth it? You burned down this whole family just to feel better about a slap." Jacob chimed in from the kitchen, chuckling bitterly. "This is what happens when women think a little drama makes them powerful." Their voices surrounded me like smoke, sour, clinging, ridiculous. But I didn't choke this time. I breathed in, and I smiled. Cooper couldn't hold it in any longer. "Luke, your wife hit your own mother, and you've got the nerve to lecture her? No matter how you spin it, hitting someone is wrong. If this is how your family's been raised, well, consider me enlightened." Luke snapped his head around to glare at him. "Who the hell are you? Since when do you get to talk about my family?" Cooper straightened his back, voice calm but firm. "I'm her nephew. That means this is my business." The words hit me like a stone to the chest. For the first time in decades, someone stood up for me. Not quietly, not from the shadows, but boldly, out loud, and right to their faces. And it wasn't my husband. It wasn't my son. It was Cooper. The boy I once slipped grocery money to behind closed doors. The boy I helped without ever expecting repayment. The boy who had every reason to disappear into his own life, but instead stood in front of me like a wall of quiet strength. Jacob rolled his eyes, grabbing the pen like it insulted him just by existing. He signed the divorce papers with a dramatic flourish and slammed them onto the table like he was stamping out the last trace of our shared life. Take it and get out, and don't come crawling back when you realize what a mistake you made. I didn't even flinch. Luke, meanwhile, grabbed the agreement and scanned it with the intensity of someone reading a bill that dared to charge him for his own entitlement. His scowl deepened with every line, then his voice dropped to a cold, metallic edge. "So that's it?" he said, looking up. "You're just going to split everything between you two? What about me?" He jabbed a finger at the page. "The house. The savings that was supposed to be mine one day. You're cutting me out like I'm nobody. What a joke." It was telling. Not a word about what had happened, not a question about my injuries, no concern for the woman who had raised him, no apology for the slap I'd endured or the floor I'd collapsed on. He wasn't upset that I was hurt. He was upset that his inheritance might shrink. For years, he assumed everything under this roof would be his someday. He'd already divided it in his mind: bedroom, savings, backyard, equity. He thought I was a permanent fixture, silent, predictable, slowly fading. And now, as the floor plan of his future cracked beneath him, he was panicking. Jacob, ever the peacemaker when money was on the line, tried to soothe him. "Come on now," he said, tone almost paternal. "The house will be yours one day. Of course it will. Don't get all worked up. Your mother's just emotional." But Luke wasn't having it. He looked between the two of us, something calculating flickering in his eyes. He stood up straighter, decided something. "I don't care how you two split it," he said. "I want the house deed signed over to me now, and I want the 10 grand from the joint account transferred to my name. If you ever need money after this, you'll come to me. I'll decide." I stared at him, and for the first time, I didn't feel sorrow. I felt revulsion. This was the son I had made birthday cakes for, sat beside during homework, stayed awake worrying over when he had colds or heartbreaks or dreams. And here he was, not even trying to hide the greed. He didn't want me. He wanted control, ownership. I didn't say a word. I just reached across the table and snatched the papers right out of his hand. "We're dividing assets," I said, my voice cool and flat. "Not an inheritance. This is my decision, and I'm still alive. You don't get a say in how I live or where my money goes. If you want something, try dreaming." Luke's face turned red with rage, but I didn't give him time to respond. I turned to Cooper and gave him a nod. "Let's go. We've wasted enough time here." Without hesitation, Cooper picked up my suitcase. His grip was firm, his expression unreadable, but I felt the fire in him, the silent promise: "You're not alone anymore." As we turned toward the door, Luke suddenly snapped. He spun around, voice cracking with fury. "You trying to steal my mom from me?" he shouted. "You think I don't see what you're doing? If you're gunning for her money, if you think she's leaving it all to you, I swear—" And there it was. He finally said it. Not "don't go," not "I'm sorry." Just "the money is mine." I stopped, turned around, looked him dead in the eyes. "That money is mine," I said, voice like winter. "Every penny. I earned it, I saved it, I sacrificed for it. I'll give it to whoever the hell I want. And you, Luke, you don't control anything anymore." I didn't wait for his reply. We stepped outside into crisp afternoon air. It smelled like change. Cooper opened the passenger door, helped me in, then buckled his own seatbelt. Before starting the engine, he turned to me, his voice soft but steady. "Where to, Aunt Stella?" I gave him a small, sly smile. "Just drive. It's all taken care of." I leaned back as we rolled slowly out of that driveway for the last time. We passed quiet lawns, the kind of neighborhood where everything felt deliberately calm, as if even the birds were instructed to sing at low volume. The sun filtered gently through sycamore trees. A man in joggers walked a golden retriever with a lazy gait. A woman in a wide-brimmed sun hat trimmed her hedges with the precision of someone who knew how to make things beautiful and keep them that way. It felt like driving into a sigh of relief. The house came into view like a warm welcome, A single-story cottage, modest but glowing with gentle color, cream walls, sage green shutters. The kind of house that didn't shout for attention but quietly stood as proof that peace didn't need fanfare. The garden up front was wild but intentional. Lavender swayed in loose drifts. Yellow roses curled around a rustic fence. The walkway curved softly, leading to a porch with a weathered welcome mat and a potted fern that danced in the breeze like it knew I was coming. "This is it," I said. The home belonged to Clarissa Campbell. We had met decades ago at a summer seminar for women re-entering the workforce after raising children. She had always been the bold one, the one with red lipstick and too many earrings. She talked fast, laughed louder, didn't ask permission. 10 years ago, she sold everything she owned and moved to Portugal with nothing but 2 suitcases and a camera. And yet, she never sold this place. "It's too full of ghosts," she once told me, "but good ones. The kind that don't haunt, just sit quietly on the porch with you." She kept it immaculate. A local service cleaned monthly. Gardeners tended the yard weekly. The house wasn't abandoned, it was just waiting. A few weeks ago, I'd called her on a bad night. I hadn't meant to ask for anything. I just needed someone who remembered who I used to be, before I became a ghost in my own life. She listened. Then, without a moment's pause, she mailed me the keys. Told her I was looking for a place to start over. She didn't hesitate. Within 3 days, a small package arrived in the mail. Inside, a set of keys, a short letter in her unmistakable scrawl. "No lease, no rent. Just take care of the garden for me." When I opened the front door, sunlight spilled through the windows like a blessing. The living room was simple but elegant. Floor-to-ceiling windows stretched across the east wall, flooding the space with morning light. The wooden floors had a soft golden sheen, and the air smelled faintly of jasmine and citrus. The garden out back was even more stunning. A trellis covered in flowering vines arched over a stone path leading to a round patio table. 2 white wicker chairs sat on either side, their cushions still plump and clean. A fish tank had been installed inside, pressed against the far wall. Its water glimmered like molten glass. A handful of golden fish drifted through it, slow and unhurried, like they too had found peace. Cooper wandered outside and stood in the garden, turning in a slow, awestruck circle, his eyes wide, mouth slightly open. "Aunt Stella," he said, almost whispering, "this place is heaven. It's 100 times better than our office apartment." I laughed. The sound was light, almost musical, like it had been waiting years to rise. "Come by any time. I'll cook, and you can help me fix up the trellis and water lines." He grinned. "Deal." We hugged briefly before he headed off, waving as he drove away. As the hum of his engine faded, I stood alone on the porch and looked out over the flowers. My flowers now. I changed into a loose cotton blouse, soft slacks, and house shoes. Brewed a cup of Earl Grey, carried my little speaker outside, set it on the patio, and played an old jazz playlist Clarissa had once made for me. The wind rustled the vines. The sun warmed my skin, not harshly, but gently, like it understood how much I had endured. I closed my eyes and breathed. For the first time in my life, I felt like time wasn't chasing me or pulling me by the wrist. It was sitting beside me, unbothered, letting me be. God, so this is what life could be. All those years, I had been so consumed. By duty, by marriage, by motherhood. I was the glue, the scheduler, the cleaner, the therapist, the cook. I'd been the keeper of everyone else's world, but never my own. No one ever asked what I wanted, not even me. And somewhere along the way, I started believing I didn't deserve to ask. That if I pushed for my needs, the whole structure would collapse, and I'd be blamed for the ruin. But now I saw it clearly. No one is born superior. No title, son, husband, daughter-in-law, entitles you to someone else's soul. Freedom is not given, it's reclaimed. And time is democratic. It gives each of us the same number of hours, the same fragile days. The difference is how we choose to spend them. I was choosing me. And then came the day Ella got out of jail. The sun that afternoon was too perfect. The sky too blue, like it had been staged. I was trimming hydrangeas in the garden when I heard a knock at the front door. Cooper answered. It was his voice I heard first, low and steady. "If you want to say something to her, say it yourself. She doesn't owe you anything." I looked up and saw her. Ella stood at the threshold, dressed in a crisp maternity dress, pale pink. Her makeup was immaculate, not a hair out of place. She looked polished, like someone headed to a brunch, not someone freshly released on bail. She walked in like she owned the silence, sat across from me without asking. Her hands rested carefully on her belly. She smiled, small, tight. The kind of smile you give a bank teller you don't want to offend. "I came to talk," she said. I didn't answer. I snipped another flower, shaking the trimmings into the basket at my feet. She waited. "I know what happened hurt you," she said. "But it's in the past now. Luke says if you're really as mature as you claim to be, then you should let it go." I looked up at last, my voice smooth and cold. "Are you here to reason with me? Or to apply pressure?" Her lips pressed into a line. A flicker of annoyance crossed her face. "I just think this shouldn't keep affecting our family," she said, voice deliberately calm, rehearsed like a PR statement. "Especially with the baby coming." I set the pruning shears down on the patio table with a quiet clink. The metal met the wood, sharp and final. Then I met her gaze, and I saw it, the shift. She was changing tactics, not out of regret, out of calculation. I could almost see the gears turning behind her eyes, trying to reshape her tone from smug to diplomatic, from dismissive to concerned. But it was too practiced. Too late. "You've already got what you wanted," she continued. "I did time. Your son is barely speaking to anyone. Jacob's drinking more than ever. Everything's falling apart. What more do you want?" I tilted my head just slightly. Calm. Measured. "Do you think I called the police out of revenge?" She blinked. "Didn't you?" There it was, her default projection. The belief that everyone functioned the way she did, tit for tat, power for power, image over truth. I reached slowly across the table and picked up a slim manila folder, thicker now than it had been a few days ago. Inside were the cold, hard facts, the police report, medical documentation, and the photos. I laid them out in front of her, one by one. A close-up of the dark purple bloom across my temple, the angry red abrasion on my elbow, the sickly green bruise along the base of my spine, where I had landed after slipping off the edge of the table and crashing to the tile. She didn't move to touch them, didn't ask, just stared, her shoulders tensed. "These," I said, each word deliberate, "are already filed with my attorney." Her eyes flicked to the photos, then quickly back up, searching for any hint of mercy in my face. There was none. "If you ever raise your voice at me again," I continued, voice like steel wrapped in silk, "or come near me with anything but peace in your hands, my lawyer will file for a restraining order." I leaned in just a little, not with aggression, but with certainty. And with it, a petition for a formal evaluation of your custody rights. That's when I saw it. Her face cracked just slightly, barely noticeable, a flicker at the corner of her mouth, a tremor in the muscles below her eye. The smallest betrayal of her carefully constructed armor. And it was enough. She stiffened, straightened. Her spine became a rod of glass, still upright but fragile now. She didn't respond, didn't argue, didn't reach for the photos. She stood. No apology, no excuse, just silence. She didn't say goodbye, and I didn't offer her one. I turned back to the garden, picked up the shears. My hand was steady, my breath even, my garden, my rules, my rhythm. But I caught it, the look in her eyes just before she turned. Not fear, not quite, but something close. Recognition. For the first time since the day she married my son, she understood. I wasn't hers to manipulate. Not anymore. Her lips trembled faintly, just once. She had come expecting shame, maybe guilt, definitely submission, but she had found boundaries instead, real ones, and she didn't know what to do with them. I kept trimming. "I imagine you were planning to return to the fitness industry soon," I said softly, not looking up. "An online coaching brand, perhaps? Training programs? You were talking about sponsors last Christmas, weren't you?" She froze in her tracks. Blinked, caught off guard. I smiled, just slightly. A quiet smile. Not cruel, just informed. "Well," I said, clipping a small vine, "I've backed up the surveillance footage from the day you struck me, audio, video, clean, uninterrupted. You even raised your voice right into the mic." I turned then, not fully, just enough to see her out of the corner of my eye. "If you push this any further, one more lie, one more threat, one more passive-aggressive phone call, I will send that footage anonymously to every potential sponsor or company you ever pitch to." She stared at me, lips parted slightly. "Let's see how well that plays on social media," I finished. Calm, precise, unshaken. Her face drained of color, paled visibly, like the words had reached into her chest and pulled out something heavy. It was as if I had slapped her. Except this time there was no mark, only silence and consequences. I stood slowly, every movement calm, deliberate. "Don't forget," I said, my voice low, "your own lawyer advised you to stay quiet and compliant. If you're smart, you won't throw your whole future away for the sake of your temper." She didn't answer. She didn't need to. Her silence was a surrender. She stood there seething, hatred swimming behind her eyes. But her shoulders had already slumped, not in sadness, in defeat. From the doorway, Cooper's voice cut in, flat, final. "If you're done, please leave. We like the quiet around here." She turned toward him with a look of fury, but even that was diluted now. She didn't shout. She didn't cry. She simply gave me one last hateful glance, turned on her heel, and caught her foot on the threshold. She stumbled just slightly, and the sound of her heels scraping the wood echoed like punctuation. The door shut behind her with a dull thud. I didn't sit. I gathered the documents on the table and returned them to the drawer in calm, precise motions. Outside, the wind moved gently through the trees. Inside, I felt weightless, but not empty. Something in me had changed. The woman I used to be, she was afraid of Ella, not because of her strength, but because I clung to the illusion that we were still a family, that if I kept smiling, kept cooking, kept absorbing the blows, I could preserve something whole. That silence was safety. But today I saw it clearly. Family isn't safety if it thrives on obedience and fear. It's just control in prettier wrapping. Now I had a home, I had legal protection, I had the life I chose, but more than that, I had something no one could take again: power. Cooper returned from the doorway with a mug in his hand, grinning. "That speech you gave her? Epic!" I smiled softly, letting the tension leave my shoulders. "She may not respect people yet," I said, "but she'll learn to fear consequences." He sat beside me, the humor fading from his face. His tone was quieter now, more thoughtful. "Aunt Stella, you're not the same woman you used to be." I looked at him, at the boy I'd once packed lunches for, the young man who'd held my hand through everything, and I nodded. "No," I said, "I'm not. I finally figured it out. Real freedom isn't about yelling the loudest. It's about knowing when to fight and when to walk away without apology." Outside, the breeze rustled the hanging ferns like they were nodding in agreement. The sun cast long golden lines across the patio. I felt the stillness of the earth rooting me in place, and this time it didn't feel like being stuck. It felt like belonging. 3 days after Ella left, I made an appointment with Cooper to visit a law office downtown. He offered to drive. I said yes. The office belonged to Camille Jenkins, my attorney. A woman in her early 50s, always in tailored suits with gold-rimmed glasses perched low on her nose. Her voice was like water over stone, calm but precise. A survivor herself, Camille had built her career around helping women like me. Women who gave too much for too long and finally decided they were done bleeding. "Mrs. Monroe," she said as we sat across from each other, "you don't just need to protect your money. You need to eliminate any leverage anyone might try to use against you." I didn't hesitate. "I want everything sealed, no access, no back doors, no loopholes." She nodded and opened her laptop. Within an hour, she had redrafted my will. My retirement savings, my small inheritance, the emergency fund I'd slowly rebuilt. Every cent, every asset, shifted fully under my name. The new beneficiaries, half to the State Women's Shelter Fund and a local community garden initiative. The other half, to Cooper. Seeing his name there brought a quiet I hadn't known in years. It wasn't punishment for Luke, it wasn't revenge, it was clarity, it was honesty. When I needed help, it wasn't my son who showed up. It was Cooper. When the documents were finalized and signed, Camille handed me 2 manila envelopes. "Send copies to Jacob and Luke," she said, "not because they need to respond, but because you need them to know. They're not entitled to your life anymore." And so I did. 2 simple letters, 2 final acts. No explanations, no apologies, just fact. I didn't wait for a reply. I didn't need one. A few days later, Cooper stopped by again. The sun was rising behind him, casting golden beams through the fog like the morning was proud of him. He had come to help me install the new irrigation system, something I'd meant to do for years, but never found time for. Too many dinners, too many birthdays, too many emergencies that weren't mine. He moved in silence, methodical, focused, hands in the dirt, sweat on his brow, and it felt like we were planting more than pipes, we were planting peace. After adjusting the final valve, Cooper reached into his jacket and pulled out 2 folded receipts. He handed them to me. "They both got the mail," he said. No fanfare. Just fact. That was all. And it was enough. That afternoon, as I sat with a cup of tea on the porch, letting the light hit my hands, I allowed myself a foolish thought that maybe I could finally rest. Then the phone rang. I saw Luke's name on the screen. For a heartbeat, I considered letting it ring out, but something in me wanted to hear it, wanted to confirm what I already knew. "Mom," he started. The voice was soft, gentle, eerily gentle. That tone, the one he used when he wanted something, the one that pretended he still cared. "I just saw the copy of the will," he said. "Are you seriously giving the money away? You didn't even ask if I was okay with it." I let out a dry, bitter laugh. "Ask you?" I said. "Since when do I need your permission to use money I earned by sacrificing for this family?" He went silent. Then the venom returned. "I'm your son," he snapped. "How can you give everything to an outsider? Who even is Cooper to you?" I didn't flinch. "Cooper is my family," I said. "You are not." There was a pause, 3 long, electric seconds. Then came the explosion. "Are you out of your mind? I'm your son. You can't just cut me off. I swear to God I'll have you declared incompetent. You'll be locked away in a nursing home and won't get a cent." I laughed, fully, loudly, without fear. "You might want to check with your lawyer first," I said, "because what you're doing right now, that's financial coercion and elder intimidation. And just so you know, this call is being recorded." "You're recording me? That's illegal. You're the criminal here." "No," I said, "you are, and you're the worst investment I ever made." I hung up, no trembling, no guilt. I sent the recording to Camille. 3 hours later, her reply was simple, fierce. "If he contacts you again, I'll personally escort him into court." That night, I put my phone on Do Not Disturb. I activated the smart doorbell Cooper had installed. I changed every password, closed every shared account. That night, I slept, and no one owned my name anymore. 2 days later, I returned to an old corner of the internet, an account I had opened years ago on a forum for women over 50. I had never posted, not once, until now. Under a fresh username, I wrote my very first public message. It read, "At 60, I was humiliated by my husband, slapped by my daughter-in-law, and called a burden by my own son. But now I have my own house, my own garden, my own name, and my own money. Walking away from them didn't leave me empty. It gave me back to myself." If you're still holding on, ask yourself, what exactly are you waiting for? Stella. I didn't expect much. A few likes maybe, but within 3 days it had been shared over 1,000 times. The comments section overflowed like a long-sealed dam breaking loose. "You're the reason I filed for divorce this morning." I'm taping this to my fridge. Some inheritances are earned through respect. My mother needed to read this. I just sent it to her. "Thank you for your voice." I read every comment. I cried. I laughed. I held my heart in both hands and realized I wasn't alone, not even close. I had simply spoken aloud what thousands had been thinking but were too afraid, too tired, too conditioned to say. A few weeks passed. The garden bloomed under Cooper's irrigation system. I felt energy return to me like sunlight warming cold stone. One bright morning, I took out a small sum from my savings and walked into the admissions office of the town's flower design school. The place smelled like eucalyptus and lavender. The receptionist looked up, smiling. "Looking to learn a little arrangement for home decor?" she asked. I smiled back, something cheeky in my tone. "No, I'm looking to learn a little life for myself." She blinked, then her smile widened. "That's the best answer I've heard all week." That day, when I returned home, Cooper had dropped off a wooden sign he made for me. Hand-carved, varnished, beautiful in its simplicity. I placed it in the center of the garden beneath the rose arch. "Only welcome if you bring peace." I turned 65 that year. People ask if I have regrets. I do. I regret learning how to endure too soon. I regret waiting so long to believe I deserved better. But I thank God that I finally did, that I didn't wait until it was too late. Now my life is stunning in its simplicity. I wake up to sunlight, not shouting. I brew a cup of black coffee, not apologies. I snip roses from the yard and place them gently in a vase on the kitchen table. I go to the library, flip through pages of books without time limits. I wander past the flower shop and buy tulips just for myself, not because I need to impress anyone, but because I want them. I come home, put on soft music, and sit in my garden as the wind rustles the bamboo. The goldfish in the pond ripple the surface, and no one demands anything of me. Not one expectation, not one guilt trip. I am no longer Luke's mother, no longer Jacob's wife, no longer Ella's disappointment. I am Stella, a woman finally living in her own name. Luke never contacted me again. I heard Ella tried to reapply at her old fitness club. They turned her down, citing reputation concerns. I don't know if the video ever leaked or if guilt just got to her. Either way, she knows better now. She'll never control me again. As for Luke, he went silent. Maybe he finally realized I meant every word. The final answer from both of them was silence. A clean, sharp cut. Me? I didn't feel sad at all. Because when I needed them most, they looked away. Now I finally understand. Just because someone shares your blood doesn't mean they're your family. Family is the one who picks you up when you fall, who stands in front of you, not behind. Someone like Cooper. That day, as we were replanting in the garden, Cooper asked me, "Aunt Stella, do you ever think about falling in love again?" I chuckled, plunging the trowel into the soil. Not really. My life right now is already happier than most marriages I know. He tilted his head, a little smile on his face. So how do you feel about your life, looking back? His question made me pause. I really thought about it for a moment, then answered, for the first few decades, I was like a quiet river flowing wherever I was told to go. From now on, I want to be a waterfall. He laughed. Well, just remember, when a waterfall crashes, it scares the hell out of all the people pretending to be calm on the riverbank. I smiled back. Let them be scared. They're the ones who thought I'd never move. Later that month, the senior center in town invited me to give a talk. The theme was how I found myself again. I stood on that little stage, facing a room full of women, and said my first sentence. My daughter-in-law slapped me. My husband said I was faking it, and my son told me to stop making a scene. So I called the police. I moved out and I cut them off. The rest of my life belongs to me and me alone. There was a second of silence. Then the room erupted in applause, loud, roaring, wave after wave. I continued, ladies, if there's still a breath left in your body, don't waste it sighing. Use it. On the way home, I turned to Cooper and said, I don't even feel angry anymore. What do you feel then? He asked. Clean, I said. Clean like the first ray of morning light, like the first snowflake drifting into a winter garden. I no longer needed to prove my worth through sacrifice. I no longer waited for anyone to turn around and say, thank you for everything. I wasn't looking for gratitude. I was looking for air, for space, for that one unbothered, unowned breath of freedom. And now I'm finally breathing.